trainees, and you sort of guess from her name that she is French. So we're just going to start off and just kind of establish a bit about Caroline, and then then go into what happened with the Paris attacks. So if you could just tell us, where you grew up and how you came to sort of be in this country.
Sure. So I'm from Paris, as Lindsay told me, and I decided to conduct journalism studies in Leeds. So I've been living in Leeds for 2 years now, and I've done the broadcast course. But first I started off as a print trainee, but I was advised very wisely to swap from print to broadcast, because people thought I could be more successful in that course, because apparently my voice was well fitted for TV or radio, and I was really happy about this decision. So yeah, I was at your place 1 year ago, and so I often go back to Paris to visit my family and friends, and I had the very bad luck to be in Paris at the wrong time some days ago. Yeah.
And you just completed placement periods, hadn't you? Where have you been on placement?
I've done 2 placements, one for BBC Radio Leeds, so 1 month ago, and one for ITV Calendar. It was an amazing experience. It gave me a great insight on how different media work, and I got to do a lot of things, reporting, doing Vox Pop, editing, so it was fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we'll just play some clips. This is what's happened to Caroline since finishing her placement periods.
Grandjean, graduate student at Leeds University, and the British journalist Simon Cooper, who lives here and was in the football ground. But let me just start with you, Caroline. Where were you? You weren't actually that near anything, and yet it was terrifying where you were.
Yes, I was dead scared. I was in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, a very popular and bustling area. I was just having a normal Friday night out, having a drink, and then I realized the scope of the event, and I got really scared. I was sat on a terrace with a friend, and I've overheard like a conversation. He said, "There's a war in Paris," and then I thought, hang on, right, we are not safe, especially as the waiter obliged us to get inside. And
were you the only one feeling frightened, or did you sense panic around you?
No, literally everyone was panic-stricken. Everyone was on the phone, checking on their friends, and losing the ability to think, probably. What should we do? How can we protect ourselves?
Still taxis in the street?
No taxi. It was a struggle to get a taxi home, so I had no choice but to find a safer place, another bar, sheltered, like a wine cellar.
A sort of bomb shelter in a sense,
yes.
Somebody's basement.
Yeah,
and you found one, 10 minutes away?
I had to walk 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And it was the most scary experience I had.
Simon Cooper, you were in the match, and you heard the 2 explosions. Did you think they were bombs, or...?
The first time I thought, this is very loud, this is not firecrackers, and I asked if anyone had information on Twitter. People said, oh, it happens at football matches, firecrackers. I thought, this is not that. And then 3 minutes later there was a second loud explosion, the ground shook a bit, and I thought there's really something very badly wrong here. But it took about 20 minutes before any information came in on the news that there had been a bomb outside the stadium.
And the amazing thing is that they finished the game.
It was surreal sitting there because the game was played out. France scored 2 goals. Both goals were wildly cheered. At one point, after the 2 explosions, the crowd did the Mexican wave. The crowd was really into the match, except towards the end. I think people started to get the news from their phones. And by the final whistle, about a quarter of the stadium was empty. People had thought, I should get home, I should get out of here. And then people didn't know what to do. Some went onto the field. Should we go out into the metro and go into Paris? It seemed crazy.
Now, you both love this city. But it's very different from London, isn't it? I mean, in the sense that people live outside, in and around the city. They don't have gardens.
No, that's true. But it's not a reason to feel safer.
No, but in a sense, when a city like this is attacked,
yes,
and people are told to stay indoors,
yes,
it's a pretty terrible thing.
It is very, very worrying,
yeah,
and we have to take it seriously. I don't feel safe. I'm scared when I have to take the underground now. And yeah, even to get to the airport on Monday to fly back to Leeds, I don't feel at ease with this idea.
And you wrote very lyrically in the FT, and you must have been writing really amidst all the mayhem last night. Just tell us what it is you love about this city that's kept you here for 13 years.
I mean, Paris is the streets, the outside. You live in Paris to be near other people. You have a small apartment, you don't spend much time inside. You live in Paris to go outside, to be on the squares, to be in the cafes, the theatres, the football stadiums. This is a city with so much to offer on the outside. It's the public spaces, and when those public spaces are endangered, the city crumbles.
And that's the problem, because last night everybody was told to stay indoors. Indeed, actually, they were told to stay indoors today. They didn't, not everybody, but I think a fair few did. It was quite a sombre feeling and quite an empty feeling in the city.
Well, we kept our children inside because you want your kids to go out, so we were kind of locked up in the house for the first half of the day. And then, yes, you do go out, because if
Do they know what happened?
They do. I mean, they ran into my room in the morning, and my wife had slept at the dinner she was at because she didn't dare go home. The children ran into my room in the morning and said, what's happened? What has been going on? And
How old are they?
9, 7 and 7, and I told them, people have been shooting people, but it's over now. But I mean, you have to think as a parent, do you want to raise children in an atmosphere of fear? Is Paris going to become a place of fear?
Well, what do you think?
Organising an attack like this is very difficult. It's logistically complicated, it's hard to recruit the suicide bombers, it's hard to do it twice, so I think we're going to have a period of respite. But I think having had Charlie Hebdo only 10 months ago, the fear is creeping in.
Leeds must feel a very long way away, but when you go back, how will you think of your city?
I will feel very, very sad, shocked, and I will, care for my parents more than usually. And
How have they taken this attack? We've heard of children. What about parents?
they were terrified at the idea that I could be one of the victims. They harassed me on the phone, and I just kept reassuring them, I'm fine, I'm inside. But it was a nightmare. Luckily, thanks to the Facebook app, we could spot it ourselves and saying we are secure.
Grandjean and Simon Cooper, thank you both very warmly. Details are now beginning to emerge about the suspects, including a French.
It didn't take much to create whole-scale panic. This was the Place de la République, just after 6 p.m. The rumour spread like lightning that a gunman was approaching. We were filming about 100 yards away at the time. I was asking some young Parisians about the impact of this tragedy when the panic outside triggered chaos inside too.
You say you don't want to be scared. Is the reality you will think twice next time you're going out on a Friday or a Saturday night?
I don't think so, honestly, because how can you tell this is going to happen this day or tomorrow? You cannot know, so it's better not to think about it because you cannot do anything about it. So.
Of course, nobody knew what was happening, but most assumed the worst. This woman with her dog was 90 and could not easily move. All anyone could think of was how to get out. In the end, no one could really say what had triggered such panic, but in a city full of rumours, it left many still more shaken.
I think this drives home the point. Everyone is living on edge right now. We heard there are false alarms all the time. Last night a hotel was evacuated for God knows what reason, and people are scared of the slightest thing. So I'm in a bit of shock right now. It's hard to even
I can see that.
This time I think everyone is scared. I have neighbors who are scared to go out. I delivered baguettes to my friend. Nobody quite knows if it's okay or not. We're just feeling our way along.
The way things are tonight, it may be some time before the tension here begins to ease.
Afternoon, and on it doubtless many that were caught up in some form in Friday's attacks, and even more perhaps just glad to be getting home. One purpose of today's silence in the UK was to show solidarity with the people of France and spread a message that civil liberties remain unbroken. But is the feeling the same right now in Paris?
We are still mourning, and we are not living, we're surviving and getting ready to face the worst, because we are aware they won't give up. Like they've succeeded to make us paranoid at that stage. So yeah, it's I don't know. There are no words to explain like the feel of people. You can see fear in people's eyes, and yeah, like the atmosphere is so tense. It's horrible.
And it was only yesterday, in relation to that atmosphere, that there was a false alarm, but certainly a lot of panic that you witnessed as well.
Yeah, that was the most scary event of this past days, I think. Because, yeah, I thought, is it my turn to die?
The French community in West Yorkshire stands at over 20,000.
So, yeah, in that middle clip, when everybody was kind of in the cafes, you were actually there, weren't you?
I was just waiting for my turn to be interviewed as an eyewitness, when all of a sudden everyone started to just panic. We all had to go flat on the ground, and we were convinced that the gunmen were in the place. So when you see like a strong TV presenter starting freaking out, you just think, oh my God, how are we going to deal with the situation? Yeah.
And so just explain how you obviously witnessed the attacks, and then explain how you came to be interviewed.
Well, the day after the attack, I thought, okay, maybe BBC Radio Leeds will need me to just witness, because I had a lot of contact with some reporters, and I decided, okay, there's no harm, just trying to give them a ring to check if they would need me. And that was the case. They were like really, really interested in having my perspective, my view of the event, as I was sort of caught up into the mayhem. Not one of the direct witness, luckily enough. So that was the starting point, the radio. I had to do a little speech on air, like at 11. And then from this point, every single morning they rang me to just catch up and see how things have evolved. And also it's very important to do follow-up and to ensure consistency, because when you have a breaking news like this, of course you have people testifying with shock, but after you need also an element of analysis and to calm down and see how the city is coping. And yeah, so that was the radio. And then through Twitter, you see how Twitter is important, because like you post a picture and then you attract the attention of other media. So ITV Calendar contacted me. I've worked for them, so they knew I would be willing to talk, even if it was very difficult due to the circumstances. When you are yourself like in shock and shaken, you don't necessarily want to be interviewed. But I thought, okay, I will force myself. It's to tell the world what happened. And so I did a Skype interview for ITV Calendar. Then ITV News in London contacted me, and they wanted me to go to Place de la République for the rally. And I think you really have to listen to your gut feeling as well, because when you know like the environment you're working with, just be aware of the risk. Like, for example, something inside me told me, okay, it's not safe to go to Place de la République, because it is like a place where a lot of people demonstrate, and there's always something going wrong in Place de la République. So I really forced myself to go, but I was not sure it was the right decision. And I decided not to tell my parents that I would go to Place de la République. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've obviously been trained as a journalist to be behind the camera, to be asking the questions. What was the experience like to be on the other side of it? What did you learn from that?
It was really, really enriching, because you realize how difficult it can be to be interviewed, in fact. Because like, you don't have to treat people as a pure like material content. There are people like in shock. So you have to be extra careful and deal with them with like extra sensitivity. Remember that they are human like you. They might be like self-conscious and not really at ease with communication, verbal like skills. So it's so important in terms of filming technique to just put them at ease, explain them, okay, we will do this, don't worry, and maybe anticipate their reaction and reassure them, tell them the question won't be too difficult. And also, it's very difficult as a reporter to ask like the straight to the point question, because it's so easy like to just avoid like the subject, the point. You can literally tell whatever you like and not answer the question.
And Jon Snow got the name of our university wrong, didn't he? Which we won't forgive him for. But he did redeem himself, didn't he, out there on the location?
Yes, he was a very considerate and gentleman reporter. You could see I was a bit like reeling with the events, and he said, "All right, you're cold, just take my scarf." So it's little detail like this which really matter and make yourself at ease.
But you thought he was asking you to hold his scarf for him, didn't you, at first?
I did, and I hope I didn't offend him, because I thought he took me as just like not a servant, but take my scarf.
And so what would you say to these guys in terms of, advice, really, about, if they witness any big news event, what should you do?
Well, just be brave, and even if you don't want to get involved with the story because it's getting very personal or you're being emotional about it, just force yourself and you won't regret it, because you will mark minds and help the world to be aware of what's going on. And this is the way you actually make contact. Like, it's important to grow bigger on social media and to become like a good journalist. It is important to be everywhere, literally on the spot at the right time. And just if you have like a extra skill, like you speak another language or you have like a knowledge on a specific culture, just bet on this, because it's really, you have the upper hand. It's a real advantage, I think. People will need you for that matter. Yeah.
We have time for some questions. I think we do have time for questions. Any questions for Caroline? You're all stunned into silence. I think Dave would sort of agree with me. I was incredibly proud of Caroline, that she sort of thought about contacting media outlets off her own back. Even though she was kind of a victim of the Paris attacks, really, and very obviously very upset by it. But having that's what we would say if you're ever embroiled in anything, then obviously if you can detach yourself as a journalist and make use of that situation as a journalist, then it can stand you in good stead in career terms. Would you agree, Dave? Amy?
Obviously, you were one being interviewed in that terrifying context. Has it made you question your own ambitions to become a journalist, or strengthened them because you were in that situation? And did you think, oh, what if I was one working as a journalist? How do you feel now?
Well, I think safety is a big issue, because when you are a reporter or a journalist, you are more exposed, of course. You can't really prevent the risk, like if you're in a riot or things like this. But I think it can be really difficult, and you have to always remember not to lose this sense of fear, because it's not because you're behind a camera or a mic that you're protected. Like, bullets won't pass magically through you because you're reporting. And that can be the trap, really, not to fall into, I think, yeah.
Can we say a big thank you to Caroline? Thank you.